technology, nanobots inside of their body. Smart dust, things of this nature, nanofibers that completely fill the target's body. And based on some of the scientific papers that I've seen written on this, this is possible and it is going on. But it is a lower form of the technology. It is a less advanced form of the technology. The true holy grail in terms of this technology is DNA resonant frequency. It taps right into the DNA and it does it remotely by resonating with the exact frequency that your DNA resonates.
In an internal memo dated December 20, 2019, Pentagon leadership urged military personnel not to take DNA tests, warning that they create security risks and could negatively affect service members' careers. The memo noted that the tests could potentially create unintended security consequences and increase the risk to the joint force and mission. The memo specifically mentioned using the DNA for mass surveillance and for the tracking of individuals without their awareness as a top concern. This memo seems to substantiate whistleblower and former private security industry specialist Brian Coffrin's claims that the resonant frequency of the DNA is used to monitor, track, and control the minds of targeted individuals.
What they do is they get your DNA, and then once they've got your DNA sequence, they can then go to a supercomputer and they can biocode directed energy attacks that will only go and bioresonate with your body. So that three people can be standing right next to you and nobody's going to feel the harassment except you, because these signals are biocoded to your body's tuning only. And then they can send down V2K, they can send down any symptom they want, because they're in full control of the bioresonance of your bioenergy.
And what happens is, once the resonant frequency is found in the targeted individual and the broadcast frequency matches up with that resonant frequency, those two frequencies interlock, and they can be thought of as one frequency or one energy. And what happens is, between the broadcast frequency and the individual that's receiving the broadcast frequency, once it's resonating, once they are resonating together, a super highway of frequency along which information can be sent is created. And so you can think of it just like fiber optic cables that you use to send signals over the internet that connect people to the internet. It's the exact same thing, only a wireless application of that. And so once you have connected the targeted individual with the frequency and they resonate together, then you have a perfect avenue upon which to send and receive information back and forth. And that's exactly how they manipulate someone's thoughts. They send voices into someone's head. They manipulate their emotions. They manipulate their behavior. And then that's also how they receive back from the individual in real time the vital signs, the emotions, the thoughts, what the person's seeing, what the person's hearing. And then all that information, of course, is rendered on a computer elsewhere via software, and it can be monitored and tracked in real time.
And we believe that this is going to begin to help us understand how we create perceptions. How do we create the world that we live in? We do not see with our eyes or hear with our ears, we see with our brain. You are not seeing me. You're imagining me, actually, standing up here. Your brain is an imaginarium, and it is building this perception. And this way, we'll be able to begin to understand it.
Because of my responsibilities in surveillance as a otherwise normal security specialist, I was showed this technology at work. And it was through the perspective, of course, of the camera, and what I was told that it was obvious it was being used through the eyes of the targets. So I have seen it, and it is absolutely remarkable. It's just like a first-person, video game or something where you see right through the eyes of the individual.
When we look through our eyes, there are photons hitting the outside of our face. They don't actually make it into the part that thinks. The part that thinks is looking at something else. It's looking at some kind of weird compressed signal.
Basically, those optical signals are interpreted by the brain, and then you perceive them as vision. You perceive them as pictures and so forth, but this is all electrical signals within the brain. And so the exact same thing, the data is taken in through the eyes, and then your brain renders it in a visual form that we know as sight. The exact same thing happens with the computer. The data is sent to the computer, and then it is rendered in the form of a picture that people can look at.
Images, like natural images, like what I'm looking at, have so much structure that they can be shrunk and compressed into a very tiny, what AI people call representation. So what our brains seem to do is build a very, very good compressed representation of the world. Call it a model. So just like if I have a building and there's like a blueprint or a scale model of the building, imagine I have the whole world and all of its concepts, and I shrink it down into this weird compressed representation so that it fits inside my brain.
The exact same thing happens with the computer. The data is sent to the computer, and then it is rendered. And from what I understand, that's where this technology is right now. The cutting edge is trying to marry, the software that's used to render it on the computer and the actual detecting of the signal and the hacking of the signal within the human